Welcome back, everyone. Once again, Draskyl here, doing another replay analysis. This time, we're going to be using a Legend to Ancient game, and we're going to be covering the first, basically 10 minutes of the laning phase, but we're going to try to go about as in-depth as we can about how the lane plays out, what the safe laner wants to accomplish in the lane, what the enemy is going to try to do to stop him. Basically, every single thing you can imagine for the first 10 minutes of the game. We're going to try to really just judge everything, okay, in a polite way. We're just going to talk about what happens. So for the sake of this replay, we're going to be playing a Terrorblade. Our starting items, always make sure that if you're walking to the safe lane, you buy some regen. Like, don't walk to the lane with one set of tangos and a Quelling Blade and a Stout Shield. In this meta, if you do that, you're going to get hard punished, because most of the time you're going to be up against a dual lane. In this particular game, before we even walk to the safe lane, we can see Legion is probably going to be in our lane, and then a combination of either the Coddle with the Legion or the Silencer with the Legion. So those are our potential matchups. So walking to this lane with a good amount of regen is smart, because even though we have 11 armor, the Silencer and the Coddle are both going to be able to deal magic damage. There's overwhelming odds. So the harass coming out from them is not just right clicks. So I like the fact that we have the Stout. We got 2 branches to make use of our tangos. We got a mango and an extra set. So with all that in mind, we can start the replay. Our lane partner looks to be an Ogre. An Ogre is... he's a pretty good lane support, I would say, against a lot of the current dual off lanes. But I will say that Legion is one hero that is very hard for Ogre to pressure, because one of your main damaging abilities in the Ignite can just be purged. So when you use Press the Attack, it's a hard dispel, which basically means it removes everything that's on you, including stuns, unless the spell is marked as undispellable, in which case, obviously, it won't do anything. But it removes a lot of stuff. So, this lane is going to be like... it's going to be a little bit rough for us. I'm actually going to go ahead and pause it for 1 second so I can do something really fast that I forgot to do before the video started. Alright, here we go. Okay, cool. So we're waiting for the rune to spawn. We're sitting on the high ground. And again, it's going to be Legion +1. So no matter what, I would say this lane's not going to be... it's not going to be super easy, but we shouldn't die. And to me, that's a lane where you should be able to find some semblance of farm. The lanes where you're really getting crushed are the ones where the enemy team not only can out-CS you and pressure, but they can also threaten to kill.
The battle begins.
So the Legion walks up, goes for the rune, actually gets it. I'd say we've already kind of made a mistake at this point. Like, if we rewind just a little bit, like 10 seconds, like, we should have already been down here with the Ogre. It's 3 seconds until the rune spawns, 2 people clicking the rune instead of 1. This is already a mistake. So we just talked about how there's basically no way that the enemy lane can kill us, regardless of whether or not it's Silencer or Legion, unless we make some big mistake, right? So there's no reason to not aggressively posture for this rune. We could be just standing here with the Ogre. This guy's taking a lot more damage. Even if we don't out-click this guy, like maybe he has lower ping or something like that, then it doesn't matter because we're still getting damage on him. And if we look at the Legion, this guy walked to lane with 1 set of tangos. Any damage dealt is good damage, because this guy is going to have to either fairy regen and take the courier away from his mid, or he's not going to be able to contest anymore, because the guy, first off, he started with Moment of Courage at level 1, which is not something I would advise. I would probably, in this lane, either start with Press the Attack or Overwhelming Odds. But yeah, he can't really sustain that well. So the fact that we weren't already just standing on the rune is a mistake. And that guy just gets to walk in and take our rune for free. So that is definitely not good. So the enemy team gets 3 bounty runes just due to us being out of position.
First blood. Thanks and have fun.
And those bounty runes are really important, right? Because every single one of those gives a couple hundred gold to the team. So from a net worth perspective, we just lost out on like 200, 250 gold. So first order of priority when playing a melee safe laner is that you basically want to decide whether or not you need a stick, which in most lanes I would say you do. And you want a Quelling Blade basically as soon as possible. And it looks like it is going to be the Keeper in the Light and the Legion Commander that's going to be laning against us. So nice stutter auto-attacking here. Looks like the lane is still going to be pushed in our favor. So one thing to note, we'll just pause it really fast. When you're playing against Keeper of the Light, if the guy is like consistently spamming the creep wave, the one nice thing about it is that if you know where he's standing, you can avoid the damage, and he's going to push the wave into your tower. Like, he's always just going to be pushing, pushing, pushing. Like, right now, you can see we have, what, 5 melee creeps, 1 ranged, pushing into us. And we only have our 1 wave here. So at this point, if I'm TB, I'm already contemplating auto-attacking the wave. And this is an important concept of the safe lane, is lane equilibrium is very, very important in every lane. But when you're in the safe lane, I think it's even more so, because you don't want to be farming under their tower, right? Because then you feel like you can't aggressively posture, you can't zone the enemy team off of the wave. If we go to free camera really quick and we look, we want as much distance between this tower and our creep wave as possible, because that gives the Ogre enough room to force the Legion and or the Keeper of the Light off the wave completely, and that means they're out of EXP range. But if this wave is up here, it's almost impossible to get them to stand far enough away to where they won't get anything. And as you guys may or may not know already, this is a very experience-driven patch. So if you're getting like a lot of denies, you are going to be crushing your lane, because those denies only give 25% of the total EXP of that creep to the person who is being denied. And then the person who gets the deny also gets bonus EXP as well. So it's a huge differential in just getting 1 deny. Like, you can be multiple levels higher, even in a 2v2, if you're getting multiple denies and the enemy team can't contest. So all this stuff matters just because of the lane equilibrium. The closer you are to your tower without actually being in tower range, the better. So our Ogre's off. He's doing his zoning thing. He's trying to make some stuff happen. I mean, right now we have 300 gold. I would already have walked to the side shop to buy a Quelling Blade, just due to the nature of the fact that the Keeper of the Light is going to be blasting a lot, and we only have 52 base damage, right? It's not a lot. So when you buy the Quelling Blade, you get a bonus 24 flat for melee heroes, right? And you get the ability to also cut trees, which in the safe lanes on both sides of the map, very, very nice to have. There are a lot of areas where you can cut 1 tree and juke, like if you're getting tower dove, for example. And you can also use it to just move around more efficiently. So I would say, like, by not having this already, it's not that dangerous to just walk up here and grab it. So we walk up here, we get it, we ensure ourselves that we're going to be able to get a lot more CS, because we go from 52 average damage to, what, 76? It's a fairly substantial increase. It's almost 50% more damage on top of what we're doing already. And then obviously we're going to think about wanting to buy a stick as well. The other regular TB items are the Ring of Aquila, and then going into the treads, potentially just going straight Manta or Dragonlance. You know, there's a lot of different builds that TBs like to do. But for the most part, you know, our lane control is fine. The wave is still pushing in a bit, so we should probably be auto-attacking a little bit. And this guy just blasts the wave. Okay, so now, this situation right here, this is when things start to get a little bit sketchy. You know, there's 2 range creeps on the enemy side. We just got blasted under our tower. We don't have our Quelling Blade, which means that we're going to be last hitting under the tower with 56 damage. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not good. So there are some situations where you might not be familiar with how many times do I have to preemptively hit this creep in order for me to get it. Now, unfortunately, I don't have like a perfect system, because I kind of do it a lot by feel. But I can tell you that by not having a Quelling Blade, it's going to be a lot harder for you to be able to get these creeps under the tower. So the fact that we didn't already go to the shop in like the first level or 2 when the lane was still balanced, like that's the best time to go to the side shop, is when the lane is either pushing in your favor or the lane is completely balanced and the enemy team has like, there's no disable, there's no heavy burst damage, there's nothing that really threatens to kill you in this lane, and you have, you know, 12 armor not standing next to the tower. So I would say when your Ogre was pushing that guy out, what should have happened is you should have gone to the shop to buy your Quelling, maybe you even have enough to buy the stick at that point, and then you can make your way towards the Aquila or additional regen or boots or whatever you feel like you need. But being in this position, being under your tower with no quelling, means that you're very likely to miss some CS. Even like the best players are not going to get every single one. So we're going to have to pre-hit these both once. Okay, so we didn't pre-hit that one. We realized our mistake. So we basically missed one creep because of that. Technically we missed two, but the other one that died was because our attack animation was not fast enough to get it. So a Quelling Blade would not have secured us that creep, but it would have definitely gotten us at least one, because we didn't pre-hit like we should. So yeah, we're just now stuck under our tower because the Coddle has decided that he wants to just push in the wave. And that's another CS we would have gotten if we had the Quelling. 24 damage would have been enough to get that one and a previous. So we've already lost like 100 gold because we didn't buy that item. Doesn't sound like a lot in the grand scheme of things. It is very important. And the enemy team is pretty relentless with their push. So this one should be easy, and the other one should also be easy. Yep, those are both free. Even without quelling, those are pretty easy to hit. Now, Terrorblade got an agility gain buff. So his agility gain now is pretty crazy. It's 4.2, one of the highest in the game, if not the highest. I can't actually remember if he's the top. But since he gains so much base damage on level, it's not going to be like super awful at like level 4, 5, 6. And if you want to even pop meta to try to pressure the lane a little bit and like secure CS a bit easier under the tower, you can do that too. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen a meta yet. Actually, let's talk about that for a second. So we talked about this guy and how much regen he has. You know, he's got 3 tangos. In the beginning of the game, you always want to check the enemy team's inventory. Okay, checking the inventory of the enemy is insanely important for the purposes of what can I get away with in this lane? Can I trade with this guy? Under normal circumstances, I would say that trading with a Legion is probably a bad idea because she has, you know, Moment of Courage, Press the Attack, and Nuke, a lot of stuff that's going to make us not win that particular trade. But the trump card is that you walk to lane with an additional salve that this guy doesn't have, and plus you have an Ogre, and this guy has not skilled his Press the Attack. Okay, he doesn't have it at all. And the only way you're going to know that in the game is if you are trying to trade with him because you saw that he didn't have regen. So sometimes you're surprised by what an enemy does because it either doesn't make sense or, you know, maybe they did something different than you were expecting. But you'll never get that information if you just play super passive the entire time. I would actually say that it is possible that you could have won this lane very, very hard just by like early popping meta, hitting that guy a few times. The Ogre maybe throws an Ignite on him, and then you recognize this guy can't dispel himself. Why is he not dispelling himself? You know, maybe that even ultimately results in a kill. But you'll never know because you were just sitting on your meta cooldown for the first 3 minutes of the game. So click on the enemy heroes, try to pressure when you can, recognize that trading regen when you have more than the opponent is always going to be beneficial unless you just absolutely cannot take a trade. And those situations are rare. Most of the time you're going to be able to take a few hits, give a few hits back, you have a ton of base armor, and you should be able to like completely like get this guy off the wave. Maybe the Coddle still keeps blasting you, that's fine. You know, you can just keep ferrying out healing salves and stuff like that. But for the time being, our farm is actually okay. We're sitting 17 and 5. Just missed a deny there. A little bit unfortunate. It seems like we want to try to get to the side shot, but we're not quite able to get there now because the Coddle has started blasting the wave a lot. We still had that opportunity earlier in the game, but we didn't take it. So now we're in a situation where we're reliant on the Courier to be able to bring us our item. And it looks like the Ogre... Okay, so right here, we're going to pause again. The Ogre just used the Courier. You had enough money to buy your Quelling Blade and your Ring of Aquila was just sitting in the base. You should have immediately sent the Courier back and picked up both the items and just sent them out right now. There's actually no reason to wait because the Courier was there. You can see it's being used by the Ogre with the little icon on the bottom right. it's going to take like an extra 4 seconds, and you're going to get a ton of base stats. You're going to get your quelling. You can even decide if you want to try to like push the lane out or whatever, and maybe try to farm the small camp or something, or pull. Because right now our lane is actually pushing, because I think that Dire got the large camp pull off. So there's our tangos and our quelling. Okay, now we send the courier back. Alright, I like that. That's good. Looks like the enemy team actually stacked the large camp. So we eat a little bit of damage from the neutrals. Not a big deal. We got an extra set of tangos coming out, so that should more than compensate for the damage that we just took. And now we're going to have basically everything we need. And since we have Aquila, quelling, TP, and Stout, it becomes a little bit more difficult to manage to buy a stick in this lane, because we're just short on slots. Like, we don't have an infinite amount of inventory space. So if we were to buy a stick, we would have to backpack our mango or our TP, unless we wanted to backpack some actual regen. We're going to swap the TP for the Aquila. I think that's fine. Chances of us having to TP out from this lane are pretty low. But we're definitely scared. Like, we're scared because we don't know where the Coddle is. The guy's been fog blasting a lot. But we have a lot of regen. I would say right here... Okay, there we go. Now we got the aggro toggling. When you're playing in a lane and you have to be passive, one of the best things that you can do is aggro toggle on the creep, because that will pull the creeps towards you. And if you don't know how to do that, basically all you need to know is that if you're standing next to creeps, like enemy creeps or neutrals for that matter, if you issue an attack command by right-clicking a hero, and it can be anywhere on the map, you can, like, let's say, for the sake of argument, that I want to pull these creeps. I walk up, and then I can click on any one that I see. It can be up here. I can click on the clinks. If I saw the silencer back here, you can see him on the minimap. If I clicked on that guy, it would still work. It doesn't have to be someone that's within close proximity of you. The creeps just have to be near you when you right-click on an enemy hero. That attack command is going to make the creeps run at you. And that can be very beneficial for making, say, the creeps attack something that you want them to. So another example is, I'm in a lane, it's the first wave, it's 3 melee creeps, 1 range creep. If I use my aggro toggling, I can get the melee creeps to attack the range creep on my side first. And that'll help me balance the wave, because the range creep does the most amount of damage. So aggro toggling can be insanely useful in any laning situation, regardless of whether or not you're safe lane, you're off lane, you're mid. You can use it to push, you can use it to balance the lane, pull it back towards you. If you're a safe laner, and you're like anywhere from, let's say, like Divine and down, make sure you're trying to abuse the aggro of the creeps as much as you possibly can. Alright, so we're going to go back. We're going to pop our healing sab because we just ate a blast. Now, I will say that the Ogre is not really doing an amazing job of maintaining vision for us. We're eating a lot of Coddle blasts. But we should have a pretty good idea of what this guy wants to do. So if we use the aggro toggling... Oh, looks like we might actually get a kill here. Yeah, the Coddle gets out of position. He walks way too far forward. We get him with the reflection. We have our meta still. And it gets us a kill. So that's good. We kill the Coddle. The unfortunate part is that by killing the Coddle, we have now pushed the lane. We've pushed the lane into the tower. And now we're going to have to think about, okay, do we want to pull? Is the Coddle just going to come back? Looks like he does just immediately TP in. We're throwing out some autos. And now the mana leak wears off, so we can potentially just walk away. But we took a lot of damage there. We ate a Coddle Blast. We ate an overwhelming odds as well. We only have 1 set of tangos left. And I think we're messing with the courier right now. Maybe debating if we want to get something else. But like right now, see, we know the Coddle's up there, right? But we're standing really far away. We don't have to play this far back. Again, aggro toggling, right? So we walk up here, we walk to like maybe about where this little rock is. And we click on this guy and we pull the creeps down. And then we click on him again and we pull the creeps down. We're trying to get their creeps to be either on my range creep or at the very least in tower range so we can try to set up last hits. And the reason for this is that if the Coddle's blasting, and he wants to blast this wave down, for example, and I pull the creeps down here, it's not going to hit us, right? He's going to be blasting this way, we're going to be down here, and the creeps are going to be in tower range, so now with the Quelling Blade Aquila, 79 plus 24, that's what, 103 damage or something like that? That's more than enough to safely see us enter tower. Now the alternative is, if this guy starts blasting where we are, he's not going to hit the wave, which means that he's not pushing into our tower as hard and we don't have to worry about being dove. So either way, in this situation, aggro toggling is going to help us. Now the other thing we should be thinking about is buying additional regen. And I talk about this in all my videos, anything that's laning base. If you are getting heavily harassed in your lane, it is almost universally better to just bring the regen out and stay in the lane than it is to go back to base. Going back to base is very, very punishing in this patch, specifically because of how harsh denies are, the fact that they grant experience to the person who is denying them, as well as how much it takes away, and just like how quickly people accumulate golden experience in Dota has increased exponentially throughout patches. So if you think about the current, 2018 Dota, it's basically easy mode Dota 10 years ago. That's how much more golden experience we get now. So because you're not in lane, you're essentially losing out on all of that. So just send out the tangos, send out the healing salves, send out the clarities, the mangoes, whatever it is. Just always use the courier to bring out regen if you can. If someone else on your team requires the courier more than you, then that's fine. You can let them use it, and then maybe you can shrine. And then maybe you can, walk back to base once, and then maybe later on you use the courier instead of that guy. So it looks like we were trying to find the Coddle there. Makes us miss 2 CS. We actually saw him on the map when we were actively looking for him. Okay, so this... I was going to say, if you walk up here, this is... You don't want to walk up here at all. You don't care what this guy's doing right now at all. What this guy is doing doesn't matter. You want to keep the lane control. You saw the hero show mid for a second. So now the thing that you want to prioritize the most is keeping the lane towards your tower. Keep this guy out of EXP range by denying creeps and just, be a Terrorblade. Sit there with your extremely high base armor and your pretty decent base damage now and just deny the creeps. Looks like our Ogre is back at base for the time being. And the Coddle is in the ward vision, so... Alright, the Ogre's TP back to lane. Got a little bit of a pause here. Alright, there we go. So this guy's channeling a blast. They start going for the camp. We're going to go in. We do not have meta. And we're going to be contesting this, and we don't have any regen.
Killing spree. Ownage.
Now, from the standpoint of, like, is this worth it? Is contesting this worth it? If we put, like, a monetary and EXP value on these creeps, as long as someone is here to soak the camp, I don't really think it's that big of a deal if the enemy team kills it, because we don't have the tools to kill it ourselves. So let's say, hypothetically, we had, like, a Sven instead of a Terrorblade. That hero can kill the stack. We're pretty close to level 6. I could definitely justify contesting that stack because we can take it ourselves, right? But in this case, we have an Ogre and a Terrorblade, neither of which are particularly good at killing large amounts of creeps at the same time. So because we can't actually kill the stack ourselves, stopping them from killing it, it doesn't really... Like, sure, they're not getting the gold, but we're missing lane CS because we're coming over here. So we probably missed, what, like a full wave of creeps? So anywhere from 200 to maybe a little bit more gold and some EXP as well. If the Ogre is just sitting there and they're killing the camp, he's getting the EXP from the camp. So he's making them split it 3 ways. And you can't kill the creeps yourself anyway. So stopping them just doesn't... It doesn't feel valuable to me in this specific instance. And again, if you have a way to kill the stack, completely different. I would say that contesting it is fine. But here, no regen. We took a lot of damage again. We're sitting at like 200 health. We're going to have to use the courier. And we might not even be able to stay in the lane now. If the Legion and the Coddle are still here, and they have like a couple of points into chakra magic so they can just keep spamming their spells, we're kind of in a bad spot. We just gave away a creep wave. We took a lot of damage. We don't have our regen here yet. We're going to have to either go to Shrine or use the courier. Alright, let's continue this one. Alright, so the Legion now has a DD. We're still really heavily focusing on the stack. I think it is much more important that we're just getting the lane farm or thinking about getting some regen. We have 500 gold. Actually getting close to 600. But we're not prioritizing our lane sustain at all. Like, we have to back now, and we've completely lost control of the lane because we walked over to that camp multiple times to try to stop it. We're going to buy a Belt of Strength, try to boost up our HP a little bit, but we're still sitting on a very low threshold. Maybe we're trying to get to 6 to go for some kind of Sunder play. It's entirely possible. We can hear a blast charging up. Oh boy, we die here. Okay. So we heard. Not only did we see the Coddle, like let's go over the entirety of what just happened. So first thing that went wrong, enemy team gets a stack. We want to try to contest the stack. We're focusing heavily on these neutral creeps. And because we focus so heavily on the neutral creep, we lost control of the lane. We missed probably 300 to 400 golden farm because there were 2 full waves that died without us being there. We never got regen. And because we never had regen, we ultimately died because a Coddle that walked under a ward and channeled a blast managed to clip us. And then we got an overwhelming odds cast on us on top of that. And then we just died, right? Because Terrorblade doesn't... He has really poor strength gain. He's not mitigating magic damage. He's really only good at mitigating physical damage. So everything that happened was because of the fact that we went for the stack in a game where we can't even kill it. The only person... Well, I guess there's a few people on our team that have some AoE clearing abilities, but we should never have been focused on this from the get-go. There's nothing we can do to kill it, so it doesn't matter. Sometimes, even like taking something away from the enemy team cannot be worth it if what you are giving is more than what they would get by just killing the stack. So let's try to assign like a monetary value to this stack. So we got a Centaur, we got 2 Ursas, and then a Satyr camp, right? So what? This is like maybe the same amount of gold as 2.5 creep waves, give or take, and less EXP because neutral creeps give a lot less EXP nowadays. So what they would get is that EXP split 2 ways, and the gold probably split as well, because I would assume the Coddle would probably take some with a blast. And then you would get 2 full waves, be at full health, because you actually use the courier instead of focusing on the creeps. And the lane would not be at their tower, it would be in a perfect position because you would have never left. So obviously this is all like hypothetical, but I just want to open you guys up to the possibility of, even though something that you do can seem very like small in the grand scale of things, everything in Dota has another effect afterwards. It's like, you know, ripples. Every single thing that you do has multiple different effects on the game. And just by walking over here and being like, oh, I don't want them to get this, we have really given up a lot. It's a huge loss for the safe lane in the last, I would say, probably, what, 90 seconds? And it's, you know, it's only been 9.5 minutes. I didn't want to cover, like, the entirety of this game. I just wanted to talk specifically about things that happened in the safe lane. And, you know, credit due to the Terrorblade, he did pretty alright given the fact that his Ogre wasn't really doing a whole heck of a lot. Like, he placed a ward extremely late. I don't think he did that much in the lane in general. He probably could have played it a little bit better. But from just the perspective of the Terrorblade, there's already a lot of things that we can look at and say, yeah, we definitely could do better here. And, you know, the ultimate irony is that We try to contest the stack so much, and they might just get it anyway. Now, we do have meta now. And I think the Legion ended up killing one of the creeps. But the lane is still not in our favor at all. So even now, another after effect is we cannot approach the creeps. Fortunately, the enemy team was kind enough to push the wave into us. And this is something that, from the Terrorblade perspective, this is great. You want the enemy team to push into you. You're closer to your tower, you're feeling good. You're not going to get dove or anything like that because they don't have a stun. I guess technically they do now because they have duel. But now we're back and we're focusing on the creep wave and focusing on controlling the lane. We're going to finish our treads. You know, things are looking up. It's not too bad. So now we have a situation where the enemy team has abandoned the lane completely. Now, as a Terrorblade, in this situation, I'm actually glad this happened because this is something that I think a lot of players struggle with. When you are in a lane as a hero who has the ability to pressure a tower, it is, I would say, almost always better to just pressure as hard as you can. So as soon as I see that the Legion has killed someone on my team, and that the Coddle is no longer here, I want to start pressuring the lane. I have every tool available in my kit to hit that tower. And I also notice that there's a cart here, which means that we should have our own. Yeah, we do. It's right here. So because we have a cart, we have an Aquila, we turn this on, we instantly start auto-attacking, right? And you should do this, obviously, in any lane. Whenever someone abandons the lane, you want to just start pushing, pushing, pushing. And what's going to happen is, even if the enemy team shows up, that means that they cannot be anywhere else. So we push this wave to the tower. We have our little wagon here, our siege creep. And maybe we pop meta, get a few hits on the tower. It doesn't seem like a lot, but, you know, it's cumulative. It happens maybe one or two more times, and then that tower is dead. So if the Keeper of the Light and the Legion both decide to leave the lane at the same time, and the Legion goes somewhere else to gank, you want to try to maximize what you're doing in the lane. And sure, static farming, it's going to give you a lot of EXP. It's going to give you a lot of gold. No questions. And sometimes, if you're having a really rough time, it might be okay to static that lane. But, you know, we're 42 and 12. It's 10 minutes. Our farm isn't spectacular. But relatively speaking, we're doing all right. You know, we died once. Not a big deal. One death is not the end of the game. And we're third on net worth. Plus, we're higher level now. We have a ton of armor. Farming the jungle on Terrorblade is extremely easy. So even if they do show up, we can now think about rotating out of the lane, kill a few camps, walk back to the lane if the enemy team starts pushing. We can start playing more around rotating between the lane and the jungle rather than just sitting in the lane. So here I would still say that pushing the lane out feels okay. And what we're going to try to do is just think about how long is the enemy team going to be out of the lane. How long is it before the Legion and the Keeper of the Light actually come back? Alright, so we see the Legion now. And we don't know where the Keeper of the Light is. We're still kind of just waiting around, trying to figure out what's going on. We still have that ward place from the Ogre too, so we have a bit more information to work off of.
Double kill.
Okay, so he's walking over to that camp again. We're really trying to stop him from doing that. So here's another thing too. If you want to stop this guy from killing the stack, you can also just push the wave. So let me paint a little picture for you here. If this guy's trying to kill this, do you think he's going to be attacking this if your wave is hitting his tower? Do you think that this guy would feel justified in him moving over here to hit these neutrals if you had just auto-attacked and pushed the wave all the way up here? My guess is probably not. Now, if the Coddle and the Legion both come back down there, that's okay. You're forcing the enemy team to move around. Forcing someone to do something is always better than reacting to what the enemy team is going to do. Dota is very much about aggression and how much you can stop the enemy team from doing what they want. So by pressuring the lane, you're restricting their options. This wave is here. He doesn't want to farm this anymore. It feels unsafe. This camp is protected. You're still getting all of your farm. And then, hey, you have a level 4 meta. Maybe you pop your own meta and start hitting this while the creep wave is up here and they're dealing with it, right? So if you were really that concerned about stopping him from doing that, you could have just simply auto-attacked the wave and turned on your Aquila. So he pushes the lane into you. Okay, now the keeper's here as well. And they're going to push the lane even harder. And they have a cart, which means this tower is going to start taking a little bit of damage. And now, hey, all of a sudden we're feeling like, oh god, this is not really where I want to be. I think if we pull the creeps a little bit further away, then the tower starts hitting the cart instead. And I think that would be ideal. Because the cart would have died a lot faster and then your tower takes less damage. But again, we're walking over here. We're soaking the EXP. We're going to dodge the Kalo Blast, which is good. It's a lot of harass that we didn't have to worry about. We might actually kill this guy if we just meta. Alright, we're not going to go for it. That's actually okay. If you don't want to go for the kill there because the Legion is nearby, then that's fine.
Killing spree.
But you can see how different the lane feels when the enemy team is pushing into you heavily versus, you know, you trying to push while they're absent. Because obviously a Keeper and a Legion are going to be able to outpush a solo terribly. No question.
This is Gabe Newell.
But while they were gone, if you had pressured that lane, you would have had at least a little bit of a leeway before the tower was just shoved into your face.
Mega kill.
I feel like we should always just be on edgy treads right now. There we go. We're going to swap over. And we've made our transition into the jungle. We're not going to farm the camps closest to the lane because we're kind of scared. But we know that the lane is currently pushed out. And it actually looks like a Klings has shown up. So the laning phase at this point, I would say, is kind of broken down. You know, everyone's kind of leaving the lane now. It's 13 minutes in. This one actually went, as far as game time, a little bit further than I was originally expecting to. But I wanted to just make sure that I covered as many aspects about the safe lane as I could before I ended the video. So, as most of the videos I do, this is a live recording. If anyone has any questions pertaining to this game about the safe lane, I'll be more than happy to answer them. I'm only going to take a few, and then we'll wrap this video up. Also, keep in mind that I actually believe the Terrorblade player, all things considered, did pretty well, given his lane. And the fact that the Ogre did not really contribute maybe as much as a better support player could or would have. But there are still a lot of things that you can always improve on. So just keep in mind, like, even at the highest level, people are going to make mistakes, and you might not be able to see those mistakes, but they're still there. And a lot of the really small stuff that is almost unnoticeable are the things that can sometimes make the biggest difference. Like clicking on the Legion at the beginning of the game and recognizing that he didn't have a lot of regen, not trading with him, which ultimately results in both the Legion and the Keeper of the Light getting more EXP. That EXP transitions into the enemy team pushing the wave really hard into our tower, and then us essentially losing any ability whatsoever to be able to take a fight. Because we're always dealing with more creeps. Right? They always have more creeps than us because their heroes just innately have better lane pushing ability. And a lot of that stuff snowballs just based off of one tiny thing, and that's not checking the enemy's items. Should you ever be afraid to last hit? If you are afraid to last hit, then one of two things is probably the case. You either don't understand the lane matchup that well and aren't sure if you can approach the creep wave, in which case you should try to use aggro abusing as much as you can, which is what we talked about earlier in the video. You would walk up, you would right-click the enemy, pull the creeps towards you, and walk away. And keep doing that until you get a feel for it, and then you can eventually learn how to last hit around that. It's a very powerful tool. If you don't use it and someone else does and they're laning against you, you're going to get destroyed. Like, if they're even remotely good at it, you're going to get destroyed. You absolutely should learn how to do it. Doesn't matter what lane you go to. Any 1, 2, or 3 position is going to want to know. Even the support should be able to understand like the basics of a creep aggro. Does popping a cooldown like meta in order to push your wave leave you open to being bullied out of the lane entirely? Isn't it good to keep something in order to secure farm? Technically, yes. You can get pressured once your metamorphosis is down. That's absolutely possible. And at the higher levels of play, it is likely to happen. But what I would argue is that sitting on an ability like meta for as long as we did in this game is almost never beneficial. Because let's say we pop the meta at level 3 or level 1 when we get it. We basically secure the first 1 or 2 waves. Those waves are incredibly important. Those waves are important because they're the ones that decide when you hit level 2 and 3. In a side lane, EXP is so valuable because you're splitting it 2 ways. So if you pop the meta to just guarantee the first like 2 waves of creeps and all the denies, then basically, what if the coddle doesn't hit level 2 or 3 for like an extra couple minutes? That makes an enormous impact on the lane. So even though your meta will eventually wear off, what you get from it, assuming you use it correctly, is going to be worthwhile almost every time. Now, it's going to take practice. Sometimes you're going to pop it and you're going to be like, oh god, this was a bad meta. But as long as you realize what went wrong, it's okay. Dota is an incredibly complex game, and learning it takes time. All I'm trying to do is help you guys understand at least the way that I think about the game. Alright, so looks like we don't actually have that many questions. Hopefully I was pretty succinct with the way that I explained things. But want to thank you guys very much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed doing it for you guys. If you want to ever catch me live, you can catch me on twitch.tv/Draskyl, just like the YouTube channel. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Twitter/DraskylDota2 with a TWO. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.